Maharashtra's case surge continued to skyrocket as the state has posted its highest ever single-day jump of 59,907 new COVID cases, as its active case tally has breached the 5 lakh mark to reach 5,01,559. The state also recorded an all-time high fatality spike of 322 deaths. Pune district recorded yet another staggering surge of more than 11,000 new cases. Mumbai too reported an unprecedented 10,442 new cases. As many as 24 fatalities took the city's death toll to 11,856. All major civic bodies, including Thane, Navi Mumbai and Kalyan Dombivli in the Mumbai metropolitan region, reported spikes of more than 1,500 cases. Now, vaccination was stopped in Maharashtra's Satara late Wednesday night after the district authorities ran out of doses, according to Vinay Gowda, the chief executive officer of the Satara Zilla Parishad. So far, around 2.6 lakh people over the age of 45 in Satara have received at least one dose each. Now, this comes hours after the state health minister, Rajesh Tope, had flagged the issue of fast depleting stocks across the state. He said this would happen within 3 days and asked the centre for help. So Maharashtra's health minister, they're saying vaccines will run out in 3 days and ask the centre to send more soonest. Satara has stopped vaccination, saying it has run out. After Maharashtra's SOS, health minister Harshvardhan, however, slammed what he called deplorable attempts by some state governments to distract attention from their failures and spread panic among people.
At the centre of India's COVID crisis, Mumbai hospitals are running out of COVID vaccine doses. The state-run JJ hospital is turning away people from their first dose, saving these for those who need their second.
We have been told that by Friday or Saturday we will be given the additional doses of Covaxin. Since there is acute shortage of this vaccine, we are refusing the first dose of Covaxin, and we are trying to help people get their second dose.
Praful Mehta drove 20 km to South Mumbai to get his mother's second dose after he failed to find any availability near their place.
I was regularly visiting Cooper Hospital for knowing whether the Covaxin is there. It was there at that time, but the second dose was due on 7th. So from 2nd, when I was daily going, at that time I was informed that Covaxin is not available.
Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope says they have just enough vaccine for 3 days.
हेल्थ वर्कर्सला आणि हेल्थ कर्मचाऱ्यांना सांगावं लागतं की बाबा लस आली नाही तू घरी जा असं सांगण्याची पाळी अनेक राज्याच्या केंद्रांवर येते. या सर्व गोष्टीला लसीचा सप्लाय मी पहिल्या दिवशीपासून म्हणत होतो की लस सप्लाय आम्हाला लवकर करा आणि आमच्या गतीने करा, जेणेकरून आम्हाला अधिक चांगल्या पद्धतीने काम करता येईल.
However, the Central Health Ministry hit out strongly, saying allegations of vaccine shortage are utterly baseless. He accused the government of letting people escape institutional quarantine mandate for the sake of their personal vasuli. In Mumbai, 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remain in stock across centres run by BMC. Of these, only 8,000 doses of Covaxin remain. BMC vaccinates around 64,000 people every day. For a state like Maharashtra to control the spread of virus, maximum vaccinations is needed. Although the centre is sending doses to Maharashtra, but the pace needs to be ramped up quickly, else the state will very soon run out of vaccine. In Mumbai, with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
And now this special report from a COVID ICU in Mumbai. With beds almost full, doctors say they're trying to keep up pace by increasing the numbers of facilities. KEM Hospital, the BMC's largest hospital, treats only critical patients.
As the second wave of COVID hits Mumbai, hospitals are once again filling up. But this time, doctors say they have a plan and they are better prepared to tackle the crisis and the challenge that is before them. Now, obviously, there are a huge number of admissions. Admissions are increasing every day exponentially, and that's something that is a challenge. I have with me Dr. Santosh Salagare, the professor of medicine, who's also in charge of basically creating these COVID facilities at KEM Hospital, which is one of Mumbai's biggest hospitals, and here only critical COVID patients are treated. So Dr. Salagare, obviously from what we saw in last year to this year, obviously you have a plan, you're better prepared, you know a little bit about the virus, you have a definite treatment protocol. But what is more different this time? What are the most challenging situation you're facing now in a ward like this?
The first and foremost is the speed at which the second wave has taken a sharp increase. That is drastically there. So, the second part of it is the kind of symptoms which patients are coming up. We had a typical respiratory symptoms in the form of fever, cold cough, loss of smell, loss of taste in the first wave. But now what we are finding is lot of patients are coming with gastroenteritis, malaise, body ache, non-specific symptoms, and also the patients which are coming in a stable condition. Distinctly we have noticed in this second wave that after 5 to 7 days, suddenly patient becomes bad, and that time patient becomes so bad that he requires intensive care management with ventilatory support. So these are the gross differences which we have noticed, and as you rightly said that yes, we are better prepared this time, and that is how, though the number increased so fast, but being already with the experience of pandemic, we could really face little better than last time.
So now you said treating patients this time is a bigger challenge, you're saying, given the fact that the state in which they're coming in is difficult. Why is that happening?
The difficulty lies in the number of patients coming at a given time. What happens is, our being a tertiary care center and a leader of MCGM run facilities in city of Mumbai, what is important is we are dealing with critically ill patients, those requiring high flow oxygen, those requiring all the kinds of invasive and non-invasive ventilation. So when the number of patients, what used to happen? Last year, at any given time, this 35 bedded ICU which was created on 8th of August used to have say 10 to 15 patients requiring ventilator or ventilatory related support. Now what we find is the number is like yesterday's occupancy of this ward is 33, and out of that 28 patients are critically ill.
Now in Maharashtra, one COVID patient is dying every 5 minutes. There are disturbing pictures of bodies being burnt together that have also started appearing in the Beed district. Family members are trying for the life-saving drug Remdesivir to save the patients.
The cremation of 8 bodies on one pyre in Beed district in Maharashtra. This week, Maharashtra has seen an average of 250 deaths between the 31st of March and the 6th of April compared to 32 deaths between the 10th and 16th of February. This crematorium in Aurangabad district has seen a spurt in funerals for COVID victims. There have been 81 COVID deaths in 6 days within the district, but COVID fatalities are being brought here from many areas of Marathwada. The state has to cope with almost 50,000 new cases every day. The demand for the life-saving medicine Remdesivir has increased, and many districts are running low or are even out of stock. Mumbai's Narayan Solanki is a pharmacist himself but has been looking for Remdesivir for 2 days to save his relative.
उम्र है उनकी 50 years, जो अभी तक उनको बहुत क्रिटिकल है, लेकिन अभी तक इंजेक्शन मिल नहीं रहा है. क्या करेंगे अभी? क्या दर की ठोकरें खानी पड़ेगी, और तो क्या करेंगे?
Moin has also been upset trying to save his 55-year-old mother for the last 2 days.
मैं यहाँ पे फार्मास्यूटिकल में आया था ऐसे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर में रेमडेसिविर इंजेक्शन लेने. कल रात में भी आया था, कल भी नहीं मिली, आज भी 2 दिन से मैं ढूंढ रहा कंटिन्यू, पूरा साइन पूरा मुंबई ढूंढ दिया है, मगर मिल नहीं रही है. अब इसमें क्या, डॉक्टर तो वही इंसिस्ट कर रहा है कि इंजेक्शन ला के दो तो फिर कुछ कर सकते हैं, तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते फिर हम.
Pramod Mali reached Nashik city from a village 200 kilometers away to collect Remdesivir with his brother-in-law and uncle, waiting for hours.
उधर हमको कुछ भी मिला नहीं. सुबह 10 बजे से यहाँ पे बैठे, सुबह 10 बजे से कुछ भी नहीं, अभी तक नंबर आया नहीं. अभी देखेंगे रात तक लगेगा क्या कल तक लगेगा.
Doctors say Remdesivir helps to prevent a patient from being put on oxygen.
अभी जो केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं, इसकी वजह से हमें अभी रेमडेसिविर इंजेक्शन का शॉर्टेज महसूस हो रहा है. तो अगर हम ये इंजेक्शन माइल्ड टू मॉडरेट केसेस में अगर हम नहीं देंगे, तो इंजेक्शन नहीं होने के कारण जो पेशेंट्स का डिसीज प्रोग्रेशन बढ़ सकता है, उनका ऑक्सीजन रिक्वायरमेंट बढ़ सकता है.
With Pooja Bharadwaj from Mumbai, Manoj Satpute from Beed and Kishore Belsare from Nashik, Anusya Mathur for NDTV.
Now, COVID curfews have been imposed in several UP districts. The Lucknow District Administration has imposed a night curfew in the area from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Curfew will come into effect on April 8th until 6 a.m. on April 16th. The night curfew has also been imposed in other places in Varanasi, Prayagraj and Kanpur. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Alok Pandey now for more. And Alok, we have been reporting how the number of COVID cases in Uttar Pradesh are rising very worryingly. And now the administration taking these measures in these big towns with the night curfew.
Well, you're absolutely right, Gaji. In fact, yesterday's count in Lucknow was, I think, around 1,333 cases, which, as I read in our papers today morning, is Lucknow's highest ever count. And that is worrying. And also the other districts like Prayagraj, Varanasi and Kanpur that you spoke about, all of them have seen very big rises in cases, both in terms of percentages and in terms of numbers in the last week. For instance, in Prayagraj, and this is data that I am comparing from Wednesday, has risen 2,441% in a week, and that's a huge number. Varanasi has risen 2,439% in a week. Kanpur has risen 774% in a week. So all of these towns in UP, they are seeing a big rise in COVID cases. On your screens, there are other towns in UP also where there have been very big rises in cases. So this is a worrying situation. What the Lucknow administration has also done is that it has closed down all schools, colleges, educational institutions for the next week or so. Only examinations can continue here. So the administration has started to take some more steps and perhaps recognize that the situation is going back to worse in terms of COVID cases in these cities.
All right, Alok, thanks so much for joining us with that. And as the second wave of the COVID pandemic surges across India and Uttar Pradesh, as we said, is a major concern because cases here are up 5 times in just a week. Within the state, a big worry is the spread to small towns, something the state government has flagged now, appealing to everyone to mask up and those eligible to get vaccinated.
A full day's election campaign amid crowds with no masks for UP Chief Minister Adityanath in small-town Bengal. But back home, a crackdown on people not wearing masks. Some like this incident in eastern UP's Azamgarh getting out of hand.
मैं मानता हूं कि मेरे पास मास्क नहीं था, गमछा मैंने लगाया हुआ था, वो थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे भी हो सकता है, लेकिन उनको जो है चालान करने का ही अधिकार है, लेकिन मारपीट करके मुझको चोरों की तरह घसीट के और मेरा जो है पूरा मान मर्दन करते हुए जो है कोतवाली तक मेरी बारात निकालना, ये उनका अधिकार नहीं है।
UP's active COVID cases have risen a massive 27 times in just a month, from 1,600 active cases a month ago to almost 28,000 now. While Uttar Pradesh's capital has a major share of these cases and daily fresh ones, the COVID pandemic is also surging in Uttar Pradesh's small towns. But little was done to prevent such crowds in several towns a couple of weeks ago.
आपस में भीड़ का भी है, सब त्योहारों में लोग आए हैं, घरों पे आए हैं, पॉपुलेशन की मिक्सिंग हुई है और कोरोना कई स्टेट्स में है तो यहाँ पर भी.
In Prayagraj, there were 915 fresh cases on Tuesday, and in Varanasi, 711. They rose at a startling rate of almost 2,500%. Cases are also rising in Kanpur, Gorakhpur, Lalitpur, Meerut and Jhansi. Around Holi recently, these shocking visuals of huge crowds taking part in the festival in both cities. No masks, no social distancing was enforced.
और हमारी ये कोशिश है कि 1.5 लाख से 1.25 लाख तक हम टेस्ट रोज करवाएं। इस समय हमें अत्यधिक सावधान रहना बहुत ज़रूरी है और सबसे जो कारगर तरीका है जो आपको और आपके परिवार को बचाएगा वो मास्क पहनना है.
Worry in capital Lucknow too, which saw 1,200 new cases on Tuesday. Between 30 to 40 doctors and the Vice Chancellor at the prestigious government-run King George's Medical University, a key COVID hospital, have tested positive. On Wednesday, the high-profile BJP organization in charge for UP, Sunil Bansal, who met the CM on Tuesday, tested positive. With Ravi Prakash Singh in Azamgarh and camera person Rajesh Gupta, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Narendra Modi got his second dose of the COVID vaccine, Covaxin, today at Delhi's AIIMS, 37 days after he received his first shot, and urged all eligible people to get inoculated soon against the deadly virus. Prime Minister Modi was the first beneficiary on the 1st of March as the second phase of the nationwide vaccination against COVID began. Tweeting a photo of him taking the shot, the Prime Minister said vaccination is among the few ways to defeat the virus. Unlike his first dose, interestingly, the Prime Minister was wearing a face mask this time as he took the shot. Now, Prime Minister Modi later today will chair a meeting of Chief Minister to discuss the rising COVID cases. Both the centre and states have been accusing each other over the shortage of vaccines and playing politics over a crucial public health issue. So as the cases are rising once again in the country, the Prime Minister to hold yet another meeting with all chief ministers. Welcome back. The big news: India is in the midst of a second COVID wave. Over the last 3 days, our numbers have averaged 1 lakh cases every day. So what's behind the second wave and what are the centre's plans? Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan spoke to NDTV.
How much worried should we be, or how much worried is the government?
All happening because of the lack of commitment and sincerity on the part of the people, where they are taking everything so casually and in nobody actually respecting the COVID appropriate behavior.
Say, आज आपने देखा in the courts, it has been said that even if you are alone in a car, you're supposed to wear a mask, right? That clarity has been given. And then you juxtapose this image with thousands, tens and thousands of people in political rallies, in religious functions, and then you think to yourself that where is the rule?
A political function में आप कितना लगा पाएंगे? That is something which I may not be able to comment or sort of give a direction about. अब ये तो call election commission को लेने का विषय है.
Maharashtra is now saying that we seem to be running out of vaccines. In fact, I have this information from BMC sources. They say that Kohinoor Hospital में doses खत्म हो गई कल 7:30 बजे 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remained in stock across centers in the BMC.
पहली बात तो किसी भी स्टेट में कोई वैक्सीन की शॉर्टेज नहीं है, नंबर 1. जैसे जैसे वैक्सीन्स का प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है वैसे वैसे वो भारत सरकार के पास आ रही है और भारत सरकार उनको स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के पास पहुंचा रहा है. स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को आगे हॉस्पिटल्स को देना है. अब उन्होंने ये देखना है कि किस हॉस्पिटल की कितनी कैपेसिटी और कैपेबिलिटी है, उसके हिसाब से उन्होंने देना है. हम जैसे जैसे वो यूज करते जा रहे हैं वैसे वैसे उनके वैक्सीन के स्टॉक्स को रिप्लेनिश करते जा रहे हैं.
There's a view, and today there was a big protest also in Delhi, that vaccine Maitreyi should have been avoided at a time like this. ये डोज आप हिंदुस्तानियों को पहले दे देते, उसके बाद मैत्री दिखा देते.
हमने जो भी वैक्सीन मैत्री की है, it is never at the cost of what our people need.
Maharashtra's case surge has continued to skyrocket. The state posted its highest ever single-day spike of 59,907 new COVID cases. That's nearly 60,000 on Wednesday. As its active case tally breached the 5 lakh mark to reach 5,01,559. The state also recorded an all-time high fatality spike of 322 deaths. Pune recorded yet another staggering surge of more than 11,000 new cases. Mumbai too reported an unprecedented 10,442 new cases. Now, vaccination was stopped in Satara district in Maharashtra late on Wednesday night after district authorities ran out of doses. According to the chief executive officer of the Satara Zilla Parishad, so far 2.6 lakh people over the age of 45 in Satara have received at least one dose each. And this comes hours after the health minister Rajesh Tope had flagged the issue of fast depleting stocks across the state. He said that this would happen within 3 days and has asked the centre for help. Now, after the Maharashtra Health Minister's SOS, Health Minister Harshvardhan, however, slammed what he called deplorable attempt by some state governments to distract attention from their failures and spread panic among the people.
At the center of India's COVID crisis, Mumbai hospitals are running out of COVID vaccine doses. The state-run JJ hospital is turning away people from their first dose, saving these for those who need their second.
We have been told that by Friday or Saturday we will be given the additional doses of Covaxin. Since there's acute shortage of this vaccine, we are refusing the first dose of Covaxin, and we are trying to help people get their second dose.
Praful Mehta drove 20 km to South Mumbai to get his mother's second dose after he failed to find any availability near their place.
I was regularly visiting Cooper Hospital for knowing whether the Covaxin is there. It was there at that time, but the second dose was due on 7th. So from 2nd, when I was daily going, at that time I was informed that Covaxin is not available.
Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope says they have just enough vaccine for 3 days.
आमच्या हेल्थ वर्कर्सला आणि हेल्थ कर्मचाऱ्यांना सांगावं लागतं की बाबा लस आली नाही तू घरी जा असं सांगण्याची पाळी अनेक राज्याच्या केंद्रांवर येते. या सर्व गोष्टीला लसीचा सप्लाय मी पहिल्या दिवशीपासून म्हणत होतो की लस सप्लाय आम्हाला लवकर करा आणि आमच्या गतीनं करा जेणेकरून आम्हाला अधिक चांगल्या पद्धतीनं काम करता येईल.
However, the Central Health Ministry hit out strongly, saying allegations of vaccine shortage are utterly baseless. He accused the government of letting people escape institutional quarantine mandate for the sake of their personal vasuli. In Mumbai, 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remain in stock across centers run by BMC. Of these, only 8,000 doses of Covaxin remain. BMC vaccinates around 64,000 people every day. For a state like Maharashtra to control the spread of virus, maximum vaccinations is needed. Although the centre is sending doses to Maharashtra, but the pace needs to be ramped up quickly, else the state will very soon run out of vaccine. In Mumbai, with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Now, COVID vaccinations can be held at workplaces that have around 100 eligible and willing beneficiaries. That's what the centre has decided to increase accessibility to the vaccine amid an explosive surge in infections. This program will be launched on the 11th of April. The centre has issued guidelines saying only eligible employees, no outsiders or family members will be allowed. On the spot registration will be available. Now, it's not just Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana have also sent vaccine SOS to the centre, saying they will soon run out of vaccine supplies. Uma Sudhir reports.
Identify real-time outbreaks.
Telangana's Health Minister Eetala Rajender has told Union Health Minister Harshvardhan that the state will soon run out of vaccines and they urgently need more supplies. The state also wants permission to start vaccinating everyone aged over 25 years. This came even as the Telangana High Court asked the state why it is not vaccinating round the clock and why 90% of the tests in Telangana were rapid antigen tests and not RT-PCR. Number of active corona cases has more than doubled in the last fortnight, with nearly 2,000 fresh cases in the last 24 hours, the highest single-day spike this year. On the vaccine front, over 13 lakh people in Telangana have received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine, while over 2.7 lakh have got the second one. In Andhra Pradesh, two districts, Nellore and West Godavari, have already run out of COVID vaccines. The state has informed the centre that they have only 3.7 lakh doses left and they will run out of stock by Thursday, even using only a minimum of 1.3 lakh doses every day. Tamil Nadu has 22 lakh vaccine doses available. It is not facing immediate shortage because in the last few days, because of elections, the number of vaccinations per day fell from 1,20,000 to just about 20,000. In Hyderabad, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
The Reserve Bank of India has kept the key rates unchanged yesterday as they made the announcement saying that the recent resurgence in COVID infections has created uncertainty about recovery and economic growth. The RBI, though, maintained its growth forecast at 10.5%. Now, IMF chief economist
cases surging in most states and union territories and the country in the grip of a second wave far steeper than the first, the RBI has stuck to its previous GDP growth outlook, 10.5% for the current financial year. But the big warning, growth depends on just how the race against the virus and its mutations is won. He flagged the regional lockdowns as a concern. Keeping lending rates unchanged for the fifth straight time, the RBI governor said an accommodative stance will be maintained till economic recovery is achieved, indicating lending rates will not be increased until growth has revived. The RBI governor, however, cautioned that regional lockdowns could dampen near-term return to normalcy.
Recent surge in infections has, however, imparted greater uncertainty to the outlook and needs to be closely watched, especially as localized and regional lockdowns could dampen the recent improvement in demand conditions and delay the return of normalcy.
Along with projecting inflation above 5%, announcing a series of measures to inject liquidity, the RBI governor also mentioned rising input costs and global market volatility and rising US bond yields as well. However, these are cues for the longer run. For the short term, he quoted Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King for a pep talk on hope and endurance in the face of the pandemic. Sakshi Bajaj for NDTV.
Now, the IMF chief economist Geeta Gopinath says India has returned to positive year-on-year growth as the IMF releases the New World Economic Outlook. Take a look.
So, Geeta, is there therefore any estimate on how the progression of the virus in India during the second wave so far will hit India economically, because the numbers are surging at almost world record levels over a period of 24 hours or so?
So, Vishnu, I don't have a number for you. I think it's still preliminary at this point to make an assessment. I would just mention that even in the previous wave of these virus cases, when it was quite high, we started seeing something of a disconnect between economic activity and the virus cases. So, in India, like in many other countries of the world, we've seen economic activity adapt to living with the pandemic. We have to keep in mind when we make economic projections, but I don't have a number for you right now.
So how does a nation like India balance the need to protect jobs and run the economy while needing to protect lives, which some people would suggest is best done by going into a lockdown? It's a contradiction in a sense.
This is a very difficult trade-off. There's no doubt about it. When you put countries in lockdown, it has a direct hit on economic activity, on people's livelihoods. But at the same time, there is the gain that you might. Now, I think the world has gotten better in terms of, what kind of containment measures to put in place. Again, contact tracing, testing, widespread testing is very important. And also, of course, to keep in mind that, lockdowns are not vaccinations. All that lockdowns buy you is time to actually get the right work done, which is to get widespread vaccinations. And that's where the focus should be in India right now.
Well, let's get you election news from Bengal. And the Trinamool and BJP would have you believe that the election in Bengal is a bipolar one. The choice is between just the two of them. Well, what's the left doing to keep its flag flying in this flight? Well, among its many strategies is its young candidates, student and youth leaders, many of them fighting for the first time, some still in their 20s.
The biggest show of strength by the left and Congress this election season in Kolkata. Leading the rally for the left is CPM Politburo member Biman Bose, all of 80 years old.
Campaigning for the youngest set of candidates that the left has fielded in the longest time. At least 12, all of them making waves and fighting in key constituencies.
I'm not 80 years, I'm 80 up, I'm 81. 65% electorate is around 40. Therefore, we felt that we are to put up younger generation candidate to catch the imagination of the electorate.
The youngest is Oishi Ghosh, SFI leader of JNU, contesting from Jamuria in the industrial mining belt near Asansol. She is barely 26. Also from SFI, the CPM student wing, 27-year-old Srijan Bhattacharya, entrusted with Shingud, the place that was the left's Waterloo.
It will rise, will be remembered in history books as Phoenix. The youth consists of 48% of Shingu's population and the youth is a major factor.
सोशल मीडिया में जो चर्चा हो रही है
काफ़ी पॉजिटिवली हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि यूथ को लिया गया है, लोगों की नज़रिया भी बहुत बदली है इसके वजह से कि काफ़ी ज़्यादा यूथ है। और हमारी देश में पश्चिम बंगाल में जो यूथ पॉपुलेशन है उनको सबसे ज़्यादा लास्ट 10 साल में माइग्रेट होना पड़ा है, नौकरी के सिलसिले में, शिक्षा के सिलसिले में। हमारा जो बात है, हम जो युवाओं को इस समय पे बताना चाहते हैं कि हम और पश्चिम बंगाल छोड़ के ना जाए।
Srijan and Oishi have elections coming up in the 4th and 7th phases. Meenakshi Mukherjee has already made a splash in Nandigram. Deepshita Dhar, also of JNU, is in Bali. Shayandeep Mitra in Kamarhati. Shatarup Ghosh, fighting at Koshba for the 3rd time, is 35. Trinamool and BJP also have candidates in their 30s, but most are film stars recently recruited. The left for long was viewed as a party of white-haired veterans. This time it has fielded a mix of salt and pepper, youth and experience in a bid to make a comeback in Bengal politics. With GD Shankar, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Welcome back. The big news, India is in the midst of a second COVID wave. Over the last 3 days, our numbers have averaged 1 lakh cases every day. So what's behind the second wave and what are the centre's plans? Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan spoke to NDTV.
How much worried should we be? Or how much worried is the government?
All happening because of the lack of commitment and sincerity on the part of the people, where they are taking everything so casually and in nobody actually respecting the COVID appropriate behavior.
Say, आज आपने देखा in the courts, it has been said that even if you are alone in a car, you're supposed to wear a mask, right? That clarity has been given. And then you juxtapose this image with thousands, tens and thousands of people in political rallies, in religious functions, and then you think to yourself that where is the rule?
Political function में आप कितना लगा पाएंगे, that is something which I may not be able to comment or sort of give a direction about. अब ये तो call election commission को लेने का विषय है.
Maharashtra is now saying that we seem to be running out of vaccines. In fact, I have this information from BMC sources. They say that Kohinoor Hospital में doses खत्म हो गई कल 7:30 बजे 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remained in stock across centers in the BMC.
पहली बात तो किसी भी स्टेट में कोई वैक्सीन की शॉर्टेज नहीं है, नंबर 1। जैसे जैसे वैक्सीन का प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है वैसे वैसे वो भारत सरकार के पास आ रही है और भारत सरकार उनको स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के पास पहुंचा रहा है। स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को आगे हॉस्पिटल्स को देना है। अब उन्होंने ये देखना है कि किस हॉस्पिटल की कितनी कैपेसिटी और कैपेबिलिटी है, उसके हिसाब से उन्होंने देना है। हम जैसे जैसे वो यूज करते जा रहे हैं वैसे वैसे उनके वैक्सीन के स्टॉक्स को रिप्लेनिश करते जा रहे हैं।
There's a view, and today there was a big protest also in Delhi that vaccine Maitreyi should have been avoided at a time like this. ये डोज आप हिंदुस्तानियों को पहले दे देते, उसके बाद मैत्री दिखा देते।
हमने जो भी वैक्सीन मैत्री की है, it is never at the cost of what our people need.
Maharashtra's case surge has continued to skyrocket. The state posted its highest ever single day spike of 59,907 new COVID cases. That's nearly 60,000 on Wednesday. As its active case tally breached the 5 lakh mark to reach 5,01,559. The state also recorded an all-time high fatality spike of 322 deaths. Pune recorded yet another staggering surge of more than 11,000 new cases. Mumbai too reported an unprecedented 10,442 new cases. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat, and our top story, the COVID crisis, as India is in the midst of the second wave of coronavirus. Over 1.15 lakh COVID cases were reported yesterday in 24 hours. That's the biggest ever spike in COVID cases. 630 COVID deaths were reported during that period. The country is in fact, this is the most since November last year. And with this, not only is India topping daily cases globally, but the average for the last 3 days has been 1 lakh plus. But a worrying trend is now very clear. The average daily deaths have risen steeply, taking just 55 days to go from about 90 a day to 530 on Wednesday. During the first wave, this took 73 days. So a worrying situation as India is in the midst of a second wave of coronavirus. In fact, authorities and the Central Health Ministry has been asking people to continue practicing COVID protocols, ensuring that the people are masked up and cutting out any sort of unnecessary meetings of people. Night curfews have also been declared in several areas. Let's go across to NDTV Sukirti for more. And Sukirti, we're expecting the latest data to come out in a short while from now, but very, very worrying as over the last 3 days, India's averaged 1 lakh cases a day.
Well, yes, definitely. It is a very big concern that India is now reporting an average of over 1 lakh cases per day. And Maharashtra, of course, being the big concern, so are Chhattisgarh and Punjab. But also one concerning aspect is the fact that while this is a time when the whole country, if you see in terms of governments, the center as well as the states should have been on the same page, and there should have been greater cooperation in terms of approach towards controlling the pandemic. But strangely, what is happening is that the Union Health Minister yesterday wrote a very strong letter, very strongly worded letter, where he lashed at Maharashtra for bringing down the whole country's fight against the pandemic, for not controlling the COVID-19 infection spread in their state properly, not taking the right measures. And then he said that there are these deliberate moves from their side to create misinformation about the pandemic, to say that there is a vaccine shortage while there is none, and instead of cooperating, there are these political gimmicks that they indulge in all the time. So all of those strong remarks being passed by the center. Then of course he also aimed at Chhattisgarh, where he accused the government of adding to vaccine hesitancy, since Chhattisgarh has repeatedly said that they find it hard to trust Covaxin and would not want to use it in their state. So at a time when all of these states and centers should have had much greater synchronization in terms of what is the approach to controlling the pandemic, we are seeing this blame game, and that is really not going to be helpful at this point of time, when we are losing more than 600 people are dying because of COVID on a daily basis, and we are reporting more than 1 lakh cases.
No, absolutely. A very ugly blame game breaking out. And today the Prime Minister will be holding a meeting with all chief ministers. Hopefully these issues will be sorted out during that. Thanks so much, Sukirti, for that. So Sukirti was talking about how Maharashtra is the worst affected state. And yesterday the cases skyrocketed as the state posted its highest ever single day jump of COVID cases of 59,907. So just nearly touching that 60,000 number, as its active case tally breached the 5 lakh mark to reach 5,01,559. The state also recorded an all-time high fatality spike of 322 deaths. Well, let's go across to NDTV Saurabh Gupta for more. And Saurabh, Pune district recording a surge of 11,000 cases, the highest ever. And at the same time, there's some parts of Maharashtra that are reporting a vaccine shortage.
Well, yes, irrespective of what the Union Health Minister says on the ground, and this is something that my colleague Purva also reported yesterday, if you go and see, there seems to be some sort of a shortage of vaccine supply. And that's something that the state has put on record, and of course that political back and forth between the center and the state, unfortunate. But at this point, given the situation that Maharashtra is, the state needs a lot more vaccines, and the center has been withholding that is according to and withholding permissions for several things that the state wants to do to tackle. For example, door-to-door vaccination is something the state has been arguing for months, and the center has simply said no policy. So while the center has left it to the states to tackle the crisis, when it comes to vaccine, when it comes to the policy, the whole entire control is with the center. So that is something that perhaps needs to be worked out. And the fact is that on the ground one does feel a sense of shortage of vaccine. If you speak to people in Pune, they will tell you there is a shortage, and if you speak to people in other districts also, they will tell you that they don't have enough supplies to scale up and also to continue at the level that they're doing, even though the center says they're sending more stocks. The fact is that a ugly political back and forth has broken out, and in fact Priyanka Chaturvedi hitting out at Dr. Harshvardhan for not being the Health Minister of India and instead being the spokesperson of a political party, and saying that his response was political to a letter that she wrote on behalf of the state citing the shortage of vaccines. And on the ground, we picked up there is a shortage of vaccine, and that is something that officials are telling us on the ground. But obviously the centre continues to deny this, saying that there is no shortage, and this has become now a bone of contention between the centre and the state.
All right, sort of a very unfortunate situation as, Maharashtra is dealing with this massive crisis and vaccines are running out. In fact, reports by us about how the centers actually storing vaccine for the second dose so people can receive the second dose and have stopped administering that first dose. Now, Maharashtra Health Minister said that the state may run out of vaccines in 3 days, and he had asked the centers to send more stock soonest. Satara has stopped vaccinations. It has run out of vaccines. But after the Maharashtra government's SOS, the Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, slammed what he called deplorable attempts by some state governments to distract attention from their failures and spread panic among people.
At the center of India's COVID crisis, Mumbai hospitals are running out of COVID vaccine doses. The state-run JJ hospital is turning away people from their first dose, saving these for those who need their second.
We have been told that by Friday or Saturday we will be given the additional doses of Covaxin. Since there's acute shortage of this vaccine, we are refusing the first dose of Covaxin, and we are trying to help people get their second dose.
Praful Mehta drove 20 km to South Mumbai to get his mother's second dose after he failed to find any availability near their place.
I was regularly visiting Cooper Hospital for knowing whether the Covaxin is there. It was there at that time, but the second dose was due on 7th. So from 2nd, when I was daily going, at that time I was informed that Covaxin is not available.
Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope says they have just enough vaccine for 3 days.
आमच्या हेल्थ वर्कर्सला आणि हेल्थ कर्मचाऱ्यांना सांगावं लागतं की बाबा लस आली नाही, तू घरी जा, असं सांगण्याची पाळी अनेक राज्याच्या केंद्रांवर येते. या सर्व गोष्टीला लसीचा सप्लाय मी पहिल्या दिवशीपासून म्हणत होतो की लस सप्लाय आम्हाला लवकर करा आणि आमच्या गतीनं करा, जेणेकरून आम्हाला अधिक चांगल्या पद्धतीनं काम करता येईल.
However, the Central Health Ministry hit out strongly, saying allegations of vaccine shortage are utterly baseless. He accused the government of letting people escape institutional quarantine mandate for the sake of their personal vasuli. In Mumbai, 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remain in stock across centers run by BMC. Of these, only 8,000 doses of Covaxin remain. BMC vaccinates around 64,000 people every day.
For a state like Maharashtra to control the spread of virus, maximum vaccinations is needed. Although the centre is sending doses to Maharashtra, but the pace needs to be ramped up quickly, else the state will very soon run out of vaccine. In Mumbai, with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
And let's take a look now at how Madhya Pradesh is faring. 4,043 new cases of coronavirus have been reported across the state, and 13 deaths have taken place in the last 24 hours. Well, let's go across to Anurag now for more. Anurag, tell us what steps are being taken and the number of cases they're increasing.
Yes, Gargi, a really worrying situation in Madhya Pradesh and neighboring Chhattisgarh. We have seen 13 deaths in the last 24 hours in Madhya Pradesh and a total of 4,043 cases. For the first time, the count of cases has surpassed 4,000 mark, and taking the total count of infections to 3,18,014. On Wednesday, 13 more people succumbed to the infection, taking the death toll to 4,086. In all, 2,126 patients were discharged from the hospitals, from the different hospitals, which takes the state's recovery count to 2,87,869. Of the 4,000 plus new cases, Bhopal accounted for 618, and Indore, the maximum affected district in Madhya Pradesh, 866. If you talk about Chhattisgarh, 10,310 new coronavirus cases. It's the highest single day spike since the COVID-19 outbreak last year. The state's COVID-19 caseload has now also mounted to 3,96,579, and now Chhattisgarh, Raipur announced a complete lockdown from April 9th to April 19th, 10 days lockdown in Raipur, and all the boundaries of Raipur will be sealed in that period. 53 deaths in last 24 hours, taking the death toll in Chhattisgarh to 4,469. We have heard reports that how graveyards are running out of space in the few districts like Durg amid the rising COVID-19 deaths. And as I said, the 10 days lockdown imposed in Raipur because of the rising number of cases there. Gargi?
All right, so a total lockdown imposed in Raipur because of the COVID crisis. So really the second wave gripping all parts of India. Thanks so much, Anurag, for joining us with that. Well, let's now focus on Telangana. And Telangana witnessed this highest single-day COVID surge, but Telangana Health Minister has said the state would not impose a lockdown or curfew, reassuring businesses and also migrants who had been caught unawares the last time around. Let's go across to Uma Sudhir for more. And Uma, a rise in cases. Also, there are reports of vaccine shortages.
Yes, indeed, Gargi, like you mentioned, since October, this is in fact the single-day highest rise, not just in Telangana, but also in Andhra Pradesh, which has crossed 2,331 was the last 24-day count, and that's also the highest since October. Focusing on Telangana, nearly 2,000 cases in the last 24 hours, 5 deaths, the positivity rate around 3%, and of course in Andhra Pradesh, the positivity rate more than 5%. The important thing, like you mentioned, that no lockdown or curfew is what the health minister has said, and he has said that because Telangana shares a big border, very long border with Maharashtra and of course also Karnataka. Maharashtra specifically, there are a lot of migrants who go from here to Mumbai and to Sholapur and to Bhiwandi, all those places, and therefore there's a lot of movement of people, and in the border districts he says as many as 60% of the cases are people who are coming from across the border, and therefore they have increased border surveillance as well. And yes, this also comes at a time when the Telangana High Court has been quite critical of the state government for having, done 90% of the tests as rapid antigen tests and not RT-PCR. CCMB also saying that they have a new technology, dry swab test, which the state government can try and use because the turnaround time will be less and the cost will also be less, and therefore the numbers of testing can also be increased because that CCMB research has done it along with Apollo hospitals as well. And yes, there is also a fear of vaccine shortage. The health ministers, in fact, asked the central government to send across bigger supplies of vaccine and Covaxin, which is, of course, locally manufactured by Bharat Biotech. That has become in demand, and that's, in fact, in short supply everywhere. Wherever people are asking for Covaxin, they are not able to get. Of course, the choice of which vaccine you want to get is not left to the customer or to the person who wants to get the vaccine. But yes, healthcare official personnel are telling us that Covaxin is in short supply, and they are hoping for fresh supplies of any vaccine for that matter from the center, because the supplies may not last for more than a week now.
All right, Uma, thanks so much for getting us the latest on Telangana and Andhra Pradesh there. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll talk to experts about India's second wave of COVID. Welcome back. India in the midst of a COVID crisis with the second wave of the pandemic. Maharashtra reporting nearly 60,000 cases, the highest ever in the last 24 hours. Also, an ugly blame game of sorts breaking out between centre and states. Maharashtra claiming they're running out of vaccines. The centre is saying they're trying to politicize it. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by Dr. Subhash Salunke, Chief Technical Advisor on COVID to the Maharashtra government, and Dr. Rajinder K. Dhamija, Professor in HOD Neurology, Lady Hardinge Medical College in New Delhi. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us. And first and foremost, Dr. Subhash Salunke, to you, a very, very ugly sort of blame game breaking out in politics in the midst of this crisis that we're seeing in Maharashtra with the vaccines running out. The centre, however, blaming it, saying that Maharashtra is trying to divert, attention as it hasn't been able to manage the pandemic.
Yeah, I think, as you have very rightly said, this is definitely very unfortunate situation. The entire health system, both on public health side and also on the private sector side are now working together in the state of Maharashtra very diligently, very strongly, and trying to break the chain, and as well as we want to ensure that the further transmission is halted, which is extremely difficult. But at the same time, the motto, as per the guidelines given by Government of India also for vaccination, is to prevent the deaths. Naturally, we need to ensure that people with the comorbidities are given vaccination on priority. And even to cover that population, 45 plus population, and one of the requests that I am making as a technical advisor to Government of Maharashtra and also I'm requesting Government of India is people who are above 18 with comorbidities also need to be taken into considerations on priority, because I find now the younger age group is also getting severely affected and people with comorbidities are also dying in this age group. So what Maharashtra is requesting to Government of India is logical, is scientific, and it is from public health perspective. I do not desire to make any comments as far as political part is concerned.
Sure.
But with this statement of Honorable Health Minister, Union Health Minister is hurting us as a health system. I mean, I know Dr. Harshvardhan ji for last 25 years. In 1995, when polio campaign was launched in Maharashtra, and he was that time actually the health minister Delhi, and the then health minister had been to Delhi to learn from him. So we respect him, but at the same time he mustn't. I mean, leaving aside the political part, how can you think that we are not working? Health system is not working in the state of Maharashtra? No, sir.
Right.
I submit to Government of India very, very respectfully that the health system is tirelessly working. I am witnessing it. I'm not employed by Government of Maharashtra. I'm their advisor. But very, very objectively, I wish to submit very respectfully to Harshvardhan ji. I respect him personally. And I want to convince him and also convince Government of India that health system in Maharashtra is diligently working. Don't have doubts on that issue, please.
Right, I can just imagine, 1 year later we find ourselves in the same situation with the health workers just working round the clock to deal with the crisis. Dr. Dhameja, now, what can we say about this situation we find ourselves in? Early this year, everyone was congratulating ourselves. We were talking about how India has managed to control it, and we started the vaccine drive, though we've now covered 9 crore. We should have covered a lot more so far and should have really used that time when, we had less cases to really push the vaccines. Now, of course, all we can do is continue to try and push the vaccines. Dr. Dhameja, so how have we found ourselves in this situation?
Good morning, Gargi. It's a pleasure to be on your show all the time. You're right that we are in a difficult times now, and we were doing all the things correctly till September, I believe, and coming out of restrictions, we were ready to do everything to prevent infection from the citizen point of view, from the public point of view. We were ready to prevent infections by maintaining all the COVID appropriate behavior. But sometime down the line from September onwards, there was a complacency and there was a COVID fatigue, and people started moving out with the weddings, with the public transports, with the rallies, with the festivals. All these things have happened now. And we did publish actually in the month of January that we have this window period when the infection rates are falling down and we have the vaccines now available to us. So that window period, we could have vaccinated a little more. But the phase out rules have been happening, and that has been happening as per the standard international protocols, whether from the WHO or CDC or from the other countries. Till now, these the vulnerable populations were required to be immunized beforehand, because if your health workers are not immunized, how the health system will work? So the priority had to be there. But still we have science to back up, science to help us even now. If we do the things correctly, like maintaining continuing the COVID appropriate behavior with the ramp up of vaccination, with more vaccinations available, vaccines available, and probably my personal belief is if we vaccinate the urban areas, the cities which have more than 1 million population, which are around 50, we can achieve that number of herd immunity along with the 1/3 or 1/4 of the population already being immunized. Gargi, mind you, these are the people who were doing everything all right, and they were able to isolate themselves and protect from the infection last year, and now they have not been immunized. They are the ones who are at a higher risk, at a highest risk of getting the infection. So we need to isolate these people. We need to, identify these people and to protect them. So that is where these things have to be done. And I think the government is moving towards that direction. It's a huge country. It's 1.3 billion people to protect. So obviously the phases has to be there. And if you've seen in the last 4 or 5 weeks, we have opened up the immunizations, and I believe that the more vaccines coming on the way, the things will be, even the pace of the vaccination will be accelerated in coming days.
Hopefully that will be something that we see. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, Gargi, actually for last 2 months, I was continuously speaking to the people at the helm of the affairs in Delhi. See, 16th January, we decided to launch the vaccination program in the country. We knew what is the number of population that need to be vaccinated on priority in the first phase, say 30 crore. That's what we indicated.
That's
now,
right.
Is it not obligatory for us to work out the supplies in such a way that this 30 crore population in next 3 months need to be prioritized and vaccinated? But please note, the virus won't behave like the arithmetic and the mathematics that we want it to behave. It is not. Under the circumstances, in a state like Maharashtra, where the fire is burning, where the transmission has occurred right from the end Jan or initial period of the February, and I was submitting that please do not compare Maharashtra's urban population with the rural population of every state and say equitable distribution. We respect equitable distribution as the principle, but where the intensity of transmission is occurring, today in Mumbai, 11,000, in my own city, Pune, 10,000 cases. How can you compare 10,000 cases occurring in a city with another city which has hardly few hundred cases? So equitable distribution does not mean that you close your eyes and close your mind and just go on dividing.
Right. In fact,
that
some
doesn't
experts
happen.
at that time had pointed out that perhaps we concentrate on the areas, the hot spots, the problem areas, but not at that time. I remember asking this question to many experts. Not everybody agreed with it, but clearly today we're finding ourselves in this position now, and hopefully we will see the vaccine situation settle down today. The Prime Minister is also going to be holding a meeting with all chief ministers, and hopefully all these issues will be ironed out there. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
With that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll get you more news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Prime Minister Narendra Modi got his second dose of the COVID vaccine, Covaxin, today at Delhi's AIIMS, 37 days after he received his first shot, and urged the eligible people to get inoculated soon. Prime Minister Modi was the first beneficiary on March 1st as the second phase of the nationwide vaccination against coronavirus began. And tweeting a picture of him taking the shot, the Prime Minister said vaccination is among the few ways to defeat the virus. Unlike his first dose, Prime Minister was seen wearing a face mask this time around. Prime Minister Modi will later chair a meeting of chief ministers to discuss the rising COVID cases. Both the centre and states have been accusing each other over the shortage of vaccines and playing politics over the crucial public health issue. So the Prime Minister, they're going to hold a meeting with all chief ministers, and this is after several meetings in the past, and this comes in the midst of this second wave of the pandemic, as India has reported an average of 1 lakh cases in the last 3 days. Let's go across to NDTV, Sunil Prabhu now for more. And Sunil, so a meeting with all chief ministers will be held by the Prime Minister, and this at a time that there's this ugly blame game playing out between the centre and states, and especially Maharashtra.
Absolutely, Gargi, you couldn't have been more correct about the fact that the blame game on a public health issue between the centre and the state, when they should both be joining hands at this time. Both the centre and the state are at fault in one way or the other in terms of how they want to go about this entire process. Of course, we've come a long way from the top-down approach where the Prime Minister had unilaterally decided to do a national lockdown. Now, of course, leaving it to states and various chief ministers and district managements to take that decision, and where we have now seen across the country in most areas where there has been a surge, a lockdown has been announced. So the Prime Minister, to reiterate the need for COVID protocol, the RT-PCR tests to be taking place, to increase the vaccination, ensure that more people get vaccinated, and of course will reassure the chief ministers that there will be no shortage in terms of vaccines. Every effort will be made, and hopefully there will be an attempt to end this blame game between the center and the state, which is the last thing that should be done. Politics should be kept aside, especially during a time of a pandemic, especially when it's a public health issue.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us with that. So as we're in the midst of the second wave of the pandemic, what's behind the second wave and what are the centre's plans? NDTV spoke to Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan.
How much worried should we be, or how much worried is the government?
All happening because of the lack of commitment and sincerity on the part of the people, where they are taking everything so casually and in nobody actually respecting the COVID appropriate behavior.
आज आपने देखा in the courts, it has been said that even if you are alone in a car, you're supposed to wear a mask, right? That clarity has been given. And then you juxtapose this image with thousands, tens and thousands of people in political rallies, in religious functions, and then you think to yourself that where is the rule?
A political function में आप कितना लगा पाएंगे, that is something which I may not be able to comment or sort of give a direction about. अब ये तो call election commission को लेने का विषय है.
Maharashtra is now saying that we seem to be running out of vaccines. In fact, I have this information from BMC sources. They say that Kohinoor hospital में doses खत्म हो गई कल 7:30 बजे 1.85 lakh vaccine doses remained in stock across centers in the BMC.
पहली बात तो किसी भी स्टेट में कोई वैक्सीन की शॉर्टेज नहीं है, नंबर एक. जैसे जैसे वैक्सीन का प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है वैसे वैसे वो भारत सरकार के पास आ रही है और भारत सरकार उनको स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के पास पहुंचा रहा है. स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को आगे हॉस्पिटल्स को देना है. अब उन्होंने ये देखना है कि किस हॉस्पिटल की कितनी कैपेसिटी और कैपेबिलिटी है, उसके हिसाब से उन्होंने देना है. हम जैसे जैसे वो यूज करते जा रहे हैं वैसे वैसे उनके वैक्सीन के स्टॉक्स को रिप्लेनिश करते जा रहे हैं.
There's a view, and today there was a big protest also in Delhi, that vaccine Maitri should have been avoided at a time like this. ये डोज आप हिंदुस्तानियों को पहले दे देते, उसके बाद मैत्री दिखा देते.
हमने जो भी वैक्सीन मैत्री की है, it is never at the cost of what our people need.
Now, COVID curbs have been imposed in several UP districts as the cases have risen there. The Lucknow District Administration imposed a night curfew in the area from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. A curfew will also come into effect in other parts like Varanasi, Prayagraj and Kanpur. Earlier, we spoke to NDTV's Alok for more.
Yesterday's count in Lucknow was, I think, around 1,333 cases, which, as I read in our papers today morning, is Lucknow's highest ever count. And that is worrying. And also the other districts like Prayagraj, Varanasi and Kanpur that you spoke about, all of them have seen very big rises in cases, both in terms of percentages and in terms of numbers in the last week. For instance, in Prayagraj, and this is data that I am comparing from Wednesday, has risen 2,441% in a week, and that's a huge number. Varanasi has risen 2,439% in a week. Kanpur has risen 774% in a week. So all of these towns in UP, they are seeing a big rise in COVID cases. On your screens, there are other towns in UP also where there have been very big rises in cases. So this is a worrying situation. What the Lucknow administration has also done is that it has closed down all schools, colleges, educational institutions for the next week or so. Only examinations can continue here. So the administration has started to take some more steps and perhaps recognize that the situation is going back to worse in terms of COVID cases in these cities.
Well, let's get you a special report from a COVID ICU in Mumbai, and with beds almost full, doctors say they're trying to keep up pace by increasing the number of facilities. KEM Hospital, the BMC's largest hospital, treats only critical patients.
As the second wave of COVID hits Mumbai, hospitals are once again filling up. But this time, doctors say they have a plan and they are better prepared to tackle the crisis and the challenge that is before them. Now, obviously, there are a huge number of admissions. Admissions are increasing every day exponentially, and that's something that is a challenge. I have with me Dr. Santosh Salagare, the professor of medicine, who's also in charge of basically creating these COVID facilities at KEM Hospital, which is one of Mumbai's biggest hospitals, and here only critical COVID patients are treated. So Dr. Salagare, obviously from what we saw in last year to this year, obviously you have a plan, you're better prepared, you know a little bit about the virus, you know you have a definite treatment protocol, but what is more different this time? What are the most challenging situation you are facing now in a ward like this?
The first and foremost is the speed at which the second wave has taken a sharp increase. That is drastically there. So, the second part of it is the kind of symptoms which patients are coming up. We had a typical respiratory symptoms in the form of fever, cold cough, loss of smell, loss of taste in the first wave. But now what we are finding is a lot of patients are coming with gastroenteritis, malaise, body ache, non-specific symptoms, and also the patients which are coming in a stable condition. Distinctly we have noticed in this second wave that after 5 to 7 days, suddenly patient becomes bad, and that time patient becomes so bad that he requires intensive care management with ventilatory support. So these are the gross differences which we have noticed, and as you rightly said that yes, we are better prepared this time, and that is how, though the number increased so fast, but being already with the experience of pandemic, we could really face little better than last time.
So now you said treating patients this time is a bigger challenge, you're saying, given the fact that the state in which they're coming in is difficult. Why is that happening?
The difficulty lies in the number of patients coming at a given time. What happens is, our being a tertiary care center and a leader of MCGM run facilities in city of Mumbai, what is important is we are dealing with critically ill patients, those requiring high flow oxygen, those requiring all the kinds of invasive and non-invasive ventilation. So when the number of patients, what used to happen? Last year, at any given time, this 35-bedded ICU which was created on 8th of August used to have say 10 to 15 patients requiring ventilator or ventilatory related support. Now what we find is the number is like yesterday's occupancy of this ward is 33, and out of that 28 patients are critically ill.
Well, let's now focus on the economy. In an interview to NDTV, IMF Chief Economist Geeta Gopinath says India has returned to positive year-on-year growth.
So, Geeta, is there therefore any estimate on how the progression of the virus in India during the second wave so far will hit India economically, because the numbers are surging at almost world record levels over a period of 24 hours or so?
So, Vishnu, I don't have a number for you. I think it's still preliminary at this point to make an assessment. I would just mention that even in the previous wave of these virus cases, when it was quite high, we started seeing something of a disconnect between economic activity and the virus cases. So, in India, like in many other countries of the world, we've seen economic activity adapt to living with the pandemic. We have to keep in mind when we make economic projections, but I don't have a number for you right now.
So how does a nation like India balance the need to protect jobs and run the economy while needing to protect lives, which some people would suggest is best done by going into a lockdown? It's a contradiction in a sense.
This is a very difficult trade-off. There's no doubt about it. When you put countries in lockdown, it has a direct hit on economic activity, on people's livelihoods. But at the same time, there is the gain that you might. Now, I think the world has gotten better in terms of what kind of containment measures to put in place. Again, contact tracing, testing, widespread testing is very important. And also, of course, to keep in mind that, lockdowns are not vaccinations. All that lockdowns buy you is time to actually get the right work done, which is to get widespread vaccinations. And that's where the focus should be in India right now.
Welcome back. The big breaking news coming in right now. The COVID numbers have been released by the Health Ministry, and India has reported 1,26,789 cases in the last 24 hours. This is the highest ever. 1,26,000 cases being reported in a period of 24 hours. Over the last 3 days, India has been averaging over 1 lakh cases every single day. The deaths reported during this period is 685. Let's go across to NDTV Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, a massive crisis, the second wave, as many experts had predicted, worse than the first one, and massive numbers being reported, 1,26,000. Today, the Prime Minister will be holding a meeting with all chief ministers.
Well, yes, today the Prime Minister is set to hold that meeting, and this coming on a day when India has recorded its highest daily cases at over 126,000 cases, and a big jump of at least over 11,000 cases from yesterday, because yesterday we had recorded about 115,000 cases. And in the top 5 list of states, of course, Maharashtra, which reported its highest daily spike in the last 24 hours, it has over 59,000 cases. Chhattisgarh has recorded over 10,000 cases, a state that has continuously been pointed out by the centre that it is much smaller in terms of its population and area, but recording disproportionately very high numbers of cases. Similarly, if we look at deaths, Maharashtra has recorded over 300 deaths, Punjab has recorded over 60 deaths, Chhattisgarh with over 50 deaths. So, situation continuing to be very concerning in both in terms of COVID cases as well as deaths. Centre has held various meetings, has sent central teams also, but of course we've been seeing that discord between the centre and the state, especially opposition-ruled states, and we have been seeing that politics playing out where there is this constant blame game that is on between the centre and the states in terms of COVID pandemic control measures, in terms of vaccine stock. All of those things continue to become a more of a controversy rather than something that we would have seen a cooperative approach towards. So the nation continuing to report very high number of cases, but we are still to hear from the centre in terms of whether there is going to be a greater cooperation between them and especially a state like Maharashtra, where the situation is the worst at this point of time.